I can't live up to that introduction. All I could do is hang my head. Thank you so much. But anyway, I'm honored to be here today, and I want to say a little bit about Cure. You know, Cure, we take it for granted sometimes, but the president of the National Cure from Colorado sits on the Policy Development Committee for American Correctional Association. And so every policy that we have at ACA has to pass by that committee. So Cure is a member of that committee. So we respect him very much at the ACA level and national level, and it's an honor to be here today. And so when I saw it was Cure, here I come, because I have a lot of respect for them and appreciate for what they do. And they're an advocate, but they're a friendly advocate and a good advocate. Sometimes we get advocates that's not so friendly, not so cool. But anyway, I'm honored to be here with you all today, and I do have a little video I'd like to show you in a little while. And but first, let's talk a little bit about prison and so forth. I'm the most unlikely prison warden because I never worked in the prison till I was a warden of a prison. And I'm an agriculture teacher. Do we have any school teachers here? Surely not in this kind of group, but anyway. My career teaching school lasted 3 months. That's the worst job in the world. It's terrible. Nobody needs to be the school teacher. Is just the hardest thing. It's real easy to run a prison. It's hard to run school. The kids will run you crazy. And so I didn't last very long. I remember the principal told me, he said, I said, man, I just can't do this job. I don't really want to do this. He said, if you break this contract, I'm going to see you never teach again. I said, good, I'm out of here. And so boom, I was gone that day. That's just what I needed to hear. Anyway, so therefore I had no experience whatsoever in Louisiana. There's a lot of politics. There is like there is in a lot of states. But so my brother was a state senator, and the job came open to run the prison farms and industry. So, man, I can do that. I know all about agriculture, so cool, and that's good. So I did get that job. The governor gave me that job, and so that was a cabinet level job too at the time in Louisiana. So I did that for about 5 years, and I saw the Republican governor was going to win, so I quickly changed my registration to Republican and didn't tell anybody, and he did win. And so there was nobody in the cabinet but me. I'm a Republican. I'm one of you. So he kept me, so I survived, thank God. But I realized I'm not going through this politics anymore. I got to have another job, and the warden job came open, and so I said, I want to apply for that. So I was at a high level anyway in corrections, so I qualified, and so that's how I became a warden. But a very profound thing happened. I was raised in one of those, in a rural area of Louisiana, so I have this accent, and we were really, really country people. And so my mom made me go to LSU. She's a school teacher, so she said, you got to go there, and I didn't want to go. But she also made me go to church every time the doors open. So we had a strong religious background, and when I got to LSU, I forgot all about that and took off being wild and crazy. And so anyway, when I became a prison warden, I called my mom, so I'm going to be a prison warden, Mom. She said, well, you don't know anything about that, but I'm going to tell you one thing. You better see that those men have a chance to know God, because I raised you right. You've been a reprobate. You got to get straight, and you got to take care of their religious values and so forth, and you put that first. And I said, yes, ma'am. And so then I got the chaplains together. The first, when you go to prison and you take over, you meet the staff. So I thought, now here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to get the chaplains together, and I'm going to meet them first. So I put chaplains first. So that's what I did, and told him, y'all going to be shepherds. There's 1,500 inmates in this prison. Y'all have 500 apiece, and if the flock don't grow, then you're not good shepherds, and I'm going to get another one. So that's the mandate I gave them, and sure enough, the flock grew in 2 and didn't grow in 1, and so we got another one. But anyway, that started until I got to Angola 13 years later. And in Angola was a different deal. I did not want that job. None of us in Louisiana did, and I was coerced into it. But after I got there, it wasn't but 3 months until we had an execution. So I did that, but that had a profound impact on me, because not that I'm for or against, it was the process and so forth. And I'll never forget, and that's in the book. That's kind of how we start the book. But after the execution, the next day I went to see the preacher because I said, look, I'm not against what we did, but you got to give me something in the Bible so I can justify these executions. So he said, well, Old Testament, Genesis 9:6, I believe he said, he who shed man's blood, so shall his blood be shed. I said, no, preacher, I got to have something in the New Testament. They killed everybody in the Old Testament, whoever they wanted. New Testament. So he goes to Romans, the 13th chapter, the first 6 verses, where it says God's all-powerful and obey the law of the land and so forth. So I said, I can live with that. That's cool. So from there, I went forward, though, because later on we did execute a guy that had been in our prison, and I realized really and truly how profound prison wardens' jobs are and prison systems are, because it really, really is a terrible thing when you have someone in your prison, he gets out and he kills someone, it means you failed. You didn't do a good job. And so that caused me to really change the way we approached it. But anyway, a lot of things about prison that we have to do, and I talked to Warden Morton here this morning, and y'all got it going on in North Carolina. We knew you had a good system anyway. You have a really good secretary. This is a really good prison system. We can learn a lot from you, especially regarding work release and so forth. And that's kind of what our video is going to show you. The inmates are our greatest resource. We cannot afford the teachers that we would have to teach the skills and trades, because our job in corrections is to correct deviant behavior. It's not lock and feed, torture and torment. It's to correct, change their lives and correct them for the better, make them productive citizens. But we have no amount of teachers could we afford, and therefore your resource is the inmates. So we then evolved at Angola. The seminary started there, and that's what he was talking about. It's here in North Carolina, and Joe Gibbs pays for it. It's not paid for with tax dollars because of church and state issues. We appreciate him for doing that. I came here about, 8 years ago, and we started the seminary. I was the one that came because we started the one at Angola, and that fell in my lap. I wasn't that smart. So a lot of things happened to me was not because I was smart and thought of it. It was really pretty much divine intervention. I remember standing on the curb of the street looking at the sky and saying, thank you, Jesus, I wasn't that smart. And that's when we thought about hospice. And so we started the first prison hospice in America, where the hospice caregivers were inmates, and they were certified by the Department of Health and Hospitals in Louisiana. So that caught on, and now that's moved across the country, as have these seminaries, because New Orleans Baptist Theological Seminary brought us higher education, because I was complaining about no higher education, and they were sitting at the table with me and said, hey, we'll do it for you, and you'll have to pay for it. And I said, well, we can do that, I bet you, but we can't use tax dollars. So anyway, that's where the seminary started. It's now in 30 states, and so it's traveled across the whole country. And when I retired, then that's what I started doing full time, then back to Mississippi, so I kind of handed that off. But anyway, let's go back to the prison, back to the inmates, because I want to talk about that. They are our greatest resource. We do not and did not, and we have not done it correctly, I thought, for a long time, because some just basic things we didn't do. And that's what was wrong with Mississippi, and that's why I wanted the job. Angola had changed, and it was not me, it was a God thing that changed it. The inmates changed themselves. And what we have to recognize, these prisons are like another country. They're set apart. They have their own government in a way. They have gangs in them, most of them, but we had no gangs at Angola. They were gone. And we're working really hard to have none in Mississippi, because I don't like the gangs. I tell them I don't like them, because I'm not going to share my authority with any gang member or any inmate and so forth. We're going to all have order. We're not going to have chaos in our communities, so the gangs got to go. So we work really hard to get rid of them, and so we are, and we will in Mississippi. There's a way to do it, and I know how, so I'm going to do it. And if I'm there long enough, I hate these short terms with the governor, but anyway, I'll get another one. I think we're going to win, so that's going to be cool, and we can do it. Back to the inmates, though. What the seminary taught us was, as these inmates started to go to school, they started to change the culture of the prison. And they called them Bible boys at first, the inmates did, but when the other inmates would have a problem, since all their electives were in counseling, They were really training people to be real preachers with real degrees, just like the University of North Carolina. I mean, it really counts. Y'all have Southeastern Seminary here, and it's a real degree. But it also teaches them to be pastors, which teaches them to be moral counselors who really can change people's lives. And so what would happen was the inmates would have a problem in their family. Someone would pass, something was going on with their kids, and they would seek these guys out, even while they were in school, and then they would give them a chance to counsel. So we saw the morality start to change within the prison, and so we came up with the term moral rehabilitation because it has no enemies. Everybody is for morality. Everybody is for rehabilitation. I never would say faith-based because everybody who's not faith-based then is not on the same page with you. So we avoid that word at all costs. We just say moral rehabilitation. We don't talk about faith-based because everybody could go to the seminary, Muslims too. They had a real problem of studying Jesus 4 years though and not converting. So most of them did, but if they didn't, that's cool too. We didn't care because out here in the real world, there's all kind of religions, there's all kind of everything out there. So that's what we found. We also learned too, though, that we can do all the social programs we want to do. We can have anger management, and we can have inmates teach anger management to other inmates, and that's profound, that's big. But we can do all these programs, but the success comes when the inmate gets the job. We have to get him out of prison and have him employed. And that's the hard part, because when he walks out the gate and he's a convicted felon, that's difficult to get a job. I know so because my son went to prison. He got out. He's smart. He's productive. But that a felony was blocking him out of everywhere he could go. So the only job he could get was what he had a skill to do, and it was drive a truck, a CDL. He could get that job, okay, but he had the skill. So it caused us to realize, and I did that even at Angola, that we had to really teach these skills and trades and make them employable and have them certified with NCCER certifications and also ASE certifications for mechanics. So where am I going to get all these teachers? Well, the teachers are the inmates. And you're going to see on this video 2 or 3 things. You're going to see the chaplains we have in our prisons in Mississippi are graduates of the seminary in Mississippi. I'm in Louisiana, who most of them had life sentences for murder because at Angola there was 4,000 lifers. If you had less than 50 years on your sentence, we didn't keep you. You went somewhere else. You had to have more than 50 years, and you had to have a life sentence to be at Angola. And so when I left, I had 6,325 prisoners in that prison. So it was a lot of prisoners. We had 18 assistant wardens and me. But anyway, it worked. But it worked because the culture changed in the prison, because of the moral programs. It's what it was. And we had built 9 churches, and we had preachers who had total congregations. Now here we go in corrections. Oh, we can't have a group, we can't have an inmate in the pulpit because he'll have authority over other inmates. That's all we hear. We can't let one inmate have any authority over the other, so that's crazy. What do you think that gang is doing right under your nose? I mean, what are they doing? So you have to realize that inmate church is a gang too. When you go to church yourself, your pastor's a gang leader and you in the gang in the church. That's what you are, so that's what's going on in prison. So throw that out the window. The more you can get one inmate leading another in a positive way, the smarter you are and the quicker you're going to have a safe prison. And that's where the violence went away at Angola. And that's what I'm doing in Mississippi. And now we've already made great progress there. Parchment's the safest prison in Mississippi today. And it was the most violent because of the riot in 2000, in 2020. But anyway, that's what evolves. So jobs. So how do we do all these schools? Inmate teachers. How do we know and get inmate teachers? When they come in the gate, we identify and know who they are, and I'm sure y'all do that too. But if you get a guy coming in that worked at a car dealership, you know he's a mechanic, pull him aside and say, okay, we want you to teach mechanics. Well, he's afraid when he comes to prison. He don't want to be there. He may act cocky and mean, but he's still nervous inside. He's crushed. What am I going to do? Well, you pull him aside today, he comes in, and you start talking to him about teaching mechanics to somebody, and he's going to jump at it. Yeah, I'll do it. Sure, I'll do it. Okay, so there you start getting your teachers, and you have to get him ASE certified, so you have to take these school and classes and all this kind of stuff so that he can be certified, so then he can teach others so they can become certified. So you have to set up these programs to get the certification, because when you walk out the gate, if you're ASE certified, the car dealer will hire you. You will get a job. Believe me, you will. You can go, if you get certified in front end alignment and you get that kind of certification, transmissions, front end, air conditioning in the car, ASE certified, somebody's going to give you a job and you're going to make good money and you don't have to come back to prison. Same as with carpentry, same as with other skills. More entrepreneur millionaires from skills and trades than there is from academics. So therefore, what we do in prison is we teach, have all these programs, but we never go out and find a job. But you do it in North Carolina, because I just heard Warden Martin talk about finding people jobs. So that's a good thing. But most states don't do that. So that's one thing I want to leave you with. We have to really find the job for him and put him to work and give him a chance. But it's a long road to get there. And what we do in our system is we protect. We got really good about saying, oh, we can't leave people in cells. Okay, we got to let them out of the cell. Everybody got to get out of the cell, so much time and all this other stuff. But nobody said anything about all the inmates over living in the prison that's trying to go to school, trying to do good, trying to visit. Nobody said anything about protecting them from the guy in the cell who's the predators. So we want to hurry up and let the predators out of the cell so they can go over there and prey on the ones who are weak and who are going to school or what have you, trying to do a good job in the prison. So I didn't really fall for that. So I don't do that. I still have cell blocks, and if you want to be a predator, you're going to live over here. And so what happens to us is the way we stop the murder, and inmates trained me, because I started without any training to be a warden, but the inmates trained me. The ones with knives were mostly cowards because they were afraid, had to have a knife. And that's what you have to think about with road rage. Don't provoke them. Don't get into it, because the guys doing road rage probably have a gun in their car. You got to watch out for all that. Anyway, we realized that because they were the ones who would stab you or kill somebody, but they would always stab you in the back, catch you when you wasn't looking, stab you while you're asleep, never have a fight knife to knife like on the sandbar in the river, always sneaky stick you, and so kill you. So then we made a rule, if you got caught with a killing weapon, that you were going to live in a cell. So I put a guy named Hollingsworth in the cell for 1 year. We let him have his time out and so forth, because he got caught with a knife. He was out 3 weeks, and he killed a guy. So I said, Hollingsworth, you just trained me. You get caught with that killing weapon, you're going to live in a cell from now on, as long as I'm here. But I'm going to treat you good. It's going to be good, but you just got to live in the cell. I got to protect the public from you, the public being the other prisoners. So those things we do now. And so we've cut our violence as far as murder. It's just about gone in Mississippi by doing the same thing. And so no matter what prison you're in, I have a cell block for you, and it's called Walnut Grove. And so you're going to go live there if you have to have a knife. So we're going to take you away from the others. And the same is with the predators. The predators have to live away from the guy that's trying to do good and go to school. But here's what the good news is. When you have schools and programs going on, and we just poured our slab for our second church in Mississippi. It's a 6,400 square foot church, seats about 350. I believe every prison should have a church because it needs to have a steeple so they can see God. But it's an island of freedom in the prison. The church draws them like a magnet because it's God's house, paid for by private dollars and not by state dollars. And so they want to go to church. And they want to go hear their inmate pastor that started the church in the prison by starting Bible studies with inmates, who is a 4-year graduate preacher that is qualified to do this and go to their church with their name. Okay? So that's the gang. We formed one. And it's going to maybe have in Angola, we had them as high as 200-300 members in a church, and they had a structure. They had deacons, and they had the assistant pastors and so forth. Well, they're not about violence. They're about peace, and they're roaming all over your prison, talking peace and harmony and getting along, and so that's why it really worked. And that's what you did here in North Carolina, and that's what these other states are doing, because they realize Even if the warden was an atheist, he wants safety and he wants career to last. He don't want murder and so forth in his prison. So that's the deal. There's one more thing we have to learn about prison. We have to say yes more than no. Same with raising kids or teenagers. And a lot of this I got really well because when you're taught to be a school teacher, they have a methods course, and it teaches you how to manage high school students. So I use the methods course as managing the inmates. And one of the things is yes more than no. If you tell your son or your daughter no all the time when they're 14 or 15 years old, you're going to cause them to sneak around because they're going to go and do their deal with their friends and so forth. So you better learn how to say yes enough that they'll have freedom to go do those things they need to do. But these parents that say no all the time are going to have sneaky kids. I promise. Think of your own self. Did you do it? I mean, think about it. Prison. Don't say no all the time. Prison is a no place. Here's what no is. Okay, we got these folks that want to come sing to the inmates. No. They're going to bring something in. We got Kairos. Kairos can't bring cookies in Mississippi unless they store-bought. Well, I changed that because I like their cookies. And so I told the Kairos folks, you can't come back unless you have homemade cookies. Now, there's a reason I told them that, because I want the mom to be involved in the daughters making the cookies so that the dad can bring them to the prison, so then the mom and daughter are involved in prison ministry. So we have to look past why we're saying no. We want to say yes more than no. It's imperative we do that. The other thing that I ran into in Mississippi that was really terrible is they had a whole lot of employees who were managing the inmates with their mouth, scream and holler. No man wants to be screamed at by anybody. No man does, including a brand new correctional officer that you just hired. You want to run him off. You have some screaming people hollering at him what to do and go here and go there and hollering at the inmates. You got to cut all that foolishness out. So we had to calm down, be quiet, don't scream and holler. Talk to people, lead people, don't drive people. You cannot drive human beings. They don't drive well, but they follow real well if you lead them. So it's all getting the attitude, I'm going to lead you, I'm not going to drive you. I'm not going to say, get out of my face to the inmates. I'm not going to holler at the inmate. He don't want to be hollered at. He's going to do what you say, but he's going to hate you while he's doing it. You have to lead them to do what you want them to do. So here's what I was doing. I was leading all these preachers because I'd meet with them and have dorm reps. That's what Warden Martin's doing. He has dorm reps. He's got people coming to see him all the time, 10 in the group, he told me this morning. So he's talking to the inmates. He's hearing what their calls are. So what I do is I give out my business card with my cell phone on it. And so the inmate tell her mama, she calls me all the time. I answer the phone all the time and talk to the mama. But I'm hearing all the stuff he's saying, keeping her calm. She thinks, well, he's looking out for my child, so that's good. So politically, that's smart. And so anyway, then I'm really knowing what's going on in the prison, but most of it may not be true because truth is an illusion in prison most time, but you got to seek it out. So therefore, to solve my problem, I'm sure that I have me some polygraph examiners, so I do. When I need to have them, I do. I have 4. And so therefore, I can find the truth pretty much anytime I really need to if it's bad. But then also, I took one step further. I got Global Tel Inc. to put my credit card into the system so inmates can call me because they get my cell phone off my business card. So now I'm starting to hear from inmates. Now, they telling me lots of crazy stuff, but I'm listening and having to decipher. But the point is, knowledge is power. Okay, when I first became a prison warden in 81, I was a prison warden. I've been a prison warden for 34 years as a senior warden. Now remember, I didn't start out as a deputy or an assistant. I started out at the top. Only in Louisiana could you do that, probably. But anyway, that was experience. I have to have the knowledge to know what's going on. So now they're calling me on my cell phone, so I'm enjoying that. Now what I'm going to show you today, and I'm watching this clock here, is I'm going to show you this video, and it's going to show skills and trades. The inmate teachers, you'll see, there's going to be a female teaching women about forklift driving. The reason we did forklifts, and I got a kick out of this, because women can drive forklifts, but when I was talking to the Kiwanis Club, I said the reason I did forklifts was because women can't drive anyway, so I might as well teach them to drive backwards. And so So then they got a kick out of that. So anyway, that's why we do that. So we're going to show this film in a minute, and that might stimulate some questions. But I was back to the chaplains I have are the folks that were on parole from Louisiana that got out of prison, that we switched their parole to Mississippi and then hired them as state employees. So they're convicted felons, state employees, working for Department of Corrections, and probably very few correction systems would hire a convicted felon to work for them. But how can I expect someone on the street to hire a convicted felon if I won't hire them myself? So that was the example we were sending there. We're going to hire them so you can hire them. So everybody, oh, you can't hire them, they've been to prison. Well, why not? And so we did it, and we're doing it. You'll see them, and they're the chaplains. And then you'll see also the teachers, and you're going to see a guy named Robbie. He's an ex-convict from Angola, did 22 years for manslaughter. And so now he's a teacher and teaching he's a staff teacher at Parchment, teaching the inmates to be teachers. So if you're ready, we'll roll this film and see what y'all think. It's about 6 minutes.
We are training them to drive tractors, so when they do leave here, that they will have a job opportunity out in the free world.
We know that's fan, we know that's cool, we know that's heat, right? This is our heat relay, and we're gonna go here. So if we call for cooling or heating, it's going to operate that unit.
But the only way that we can have a charging system is we cannot produce DC current, we can only produce AC current, right?
I let the guys know that they don't have to be who they were yesterday. In other words, they can change. These guys here can come in and not only learn a skill, but they can also learn things that when they go back out on the street, they don't have to go back to do what they used to do. They don't have to go back to the drugs. They don't have to go back to the streets. They can actually go somewhere and be gainfully employed.
And Mr. Robbie's very good on points that you ask questions, he'll explain them to you.
So I never had any technical expertise and just a GED, and so I basically had no opportunity to grow.
Finding a good job after incarceration. That's the mission of another program launched by the Mississippi Department of Corrections. Now, tomorrow, Commissioner Burl Cain and staff will officially unveil this mobile welding training center that can be used at all state correctional facilities. It's a 53-foot long 18-wheeler that was once a moving van and now transformed into a classroom. Now it houses 8 high-tech welding simulators to train inmates for careers in welding.
We're going to focus on the ones you're getting out now within the next 6 months and next year as fast as we can, because we can learn this skill. Some people can in 6 or 8 months. She can learn to weld.
This is one of the major issues that women have when they're released from prison, is they can't find work. So we want to be able to give them something that would help them gain employment when they leave here and to help build a promising future.
a choice to be like start completely fresh when I get out. So I have my kids back, and I've got a brand new home in a completely different area, and my family back. And I mean, it's all basically just because of the program and what I learned in it.
Any way I can help change lives, that's the most important thing for me at MCIW.
She even go left. Put some more hands. 2 pounds, we got, come on. Right. And so they real receptive. A lot of them get a little nervous when they get around certain things. They like to make a mistake. When we say here, a mistake becomes a recipe. And so one of them is to have that same flavor, and also they learn about the front of the house. Now, I said earlier today, the nicer you are, the better the people that come into your restaurant. Because that's most people, they value 2 things. And I told them, they're going to value how you treat them and how the food is done. And so we teach that. So when people, when they get out, they can go to any restaurant and get a job. Because their attitude, that's most of their job, it's 90% of your attitude.
I love the work. It's giving me a relaxing, like doing something unique and make it good. Quality, shine, brand new.
Best job, knowing that every day, at the end of the day, you can see the work that you're doing. I've really been blessed with the opportunities that MDOC has given me.
We have many different types of people in prison, obviously, different charges, backgrounds, races, and I would say in the 4 years that we've been here, we've been seeing a change as far as the direction of this institution.
I have seen men's lives changed tremendously. I've seen people that were gang affiliated come out from that. I've seen people that had no interest in God or anything like that start to ask questions and want to know why. And that's kind of where my field lies, is helping them get to that point. But I would say above and beyond, thank you, thank you, thank you. I've been down 24 years. The most I've seen the system change and the people change has been when this program started.
But this is a 4-year program where students, participants, are expected to put forth sustained effort, and where we can expect to see sustained growth. And that's something that we're not really used to. It's a new thing for a lot of us, but it has huge dividends.
The journey I envision is saving at least one kid from having to do this over and over and over again. We call it doing life on the installment plan. You know, yeah, he got in trouble, he came here, but if we can sit down and mentor him and give him the tools to do better when he gets out, to change his life. I don't want to see anybody go through this. But if they're here, hey, maybe we can save just that one kid. You know, Jesus didn't ask us to save the whole world. If I can save one guy, get him to turn around and get reacquainted with his family and watch God move through him, and give him a hunger to let God use him
on the outside to change more lives. That's more than I could ask for, and it's what I dream about.
It amazes me that people are willing to help us out because that opens a door for us, and usually we have doors being shut, not open. That gift gives me a sense of responsibility as well, that I don't want to take that gift for granted. So when I come to class, I pay attention, I read my book, I take the class seriously because I know somebody's paying for it. It's a gift from them. For me, it's like it's not free. I'm supposed to reciprocate in some way, and the least I can do is study hard and honor that.
I've seen it change this institution, both inmate and staff. So it's thank you. I don't think it's a big enough word. I don't have the word for it, but it's out of their donations, out of their caring, that things are changing in here, which means it's going beyond the fence and changing out there too.
Two points. One point is to get rid of gangs, you create other gangs. And the way you create other gangs is teaching entrepreneurship. The way you teach entrepreneurship is you have clubs and organizations. And we had clubs and organizations. And let me qualify the seminary. The seminary came to Angola in 1995. That's when I came. That's a God thing, because I didn't plan it. I didn't say we're going to have a seminary. It fell in my lap. Okay, so in 95, it played the major role in changing that prison to what it is today and what it is when I left. Any woman, child could walk in death row anywhere in the prison, down admin seg, anywhere, no whistles, no catcalls. When the inmates come to me and said, your correctional officers are using too much profanity, y'all need to stop cursing so much because it's not good for us. And I say, yes, you're absolutely right. I can't believe you're telling me that. It's shocking. So we're going to all quit cursing. We're going to have sanctions if we do. No more profanity in this prison. That's unheard of. That happened. That's crazy. Blew my mind. Now let's talk about the gang. The way to get rid of them is more clubs, and that's what I'm saying. Create clubs. Now clubs are risky business. What is a club? It's 40 inmates get together and they decide we're going to sell hamburgers at visiting. Okay, so we got to have a grub stake. We're going to do that because we're going to have our food supplier is going to be letting us have credit for 30 days to buy the hamburger meat and so forth. And all you got to do is buy hamburgers, lettuce, tomato, bun, mayonnaise, and mustard, and have a way to cook it. Well, if you have to, you can barbecue it outside the building until you get it done. Or you can start a pizza club. Pizza's real easy. Everybody buys pizza, and pizza ovens are really cheap. So you can get those donated. So these 40 inmates again form a club, elect a president, get some order, and then there's a correctional officer or somebody who wants to be the sponsor is sponsoring it. And then they pay for the food by drawing it out of the inmate account. There's a way to do that. We have kiosks that does that. And so then we create the club. Now, the club is a bit corrupt every once in a while, but the gang is violent. I'll take the corrupt club any day rather than the violent gang. But what happens is the club makes money. So once one starts, then it can be seed money for the other clubs. And they grow and they grow and they grow and they grow. And then you pretty soon have all kind of clubs cooking all kind of food. The inmates that have money can get the money, can buy the food, the pizza, whatever you're making. And so then you create other groups and gangs. The same with the church. The church is getting rid of clubs, getting rid of gangs, because when they go into church, they're in the group. Everybody wants to belong to something. We got to create things for them to belong to. These things can be risky, but it's not a disaster. And when it messes up, then you just stop it and you make them hire a new president and start over, a little punishment there, and then get it going again. But you can manage it. It's really a lot easier than you think. But again, it's taking that next step. So we have clubs in all our prisons in Mississippi, and they're challenged to have the clubs. We also are building a church in every one of our prisons. And so we're going to have inmate pastors, and he's going to start, and he's going to have churches. Now, you saw those inmates talk about what they do with them. The preacher goes home. The chaplain leaves at 4:30, so nobody's there with them. When you go to church, you may need to see the preacher at night, sometime on the weekend, somebody's sick. Well, their preacher's living with them, so they can see them all the time. So that's cool. So that's how it works. Anyway, I brushed through that pretty quick. Anybody have any questions? I might have done a really good job. No, all right.
What type of training do you put? Can you tell us? There we are. I'm pretty loud anyway. Commissioner, can you tell us what type of training are you using for your staff to help move this whole process along and to make it so much more progressive?
That's probably the worst thing and hardest part of it because we're so short-staffed, but this year we've already gained and got ahead of our staff issues now, so we're getting that corrected because we're paying adequate funds. But we do have our training academy, but we do not have enough training. We do have on-the-job training, and they do have mentors now that meets with the new employees, and we never send a new employee to a job by himself. For a month, he has to go with two people, so he gets trained. But they fall right into the entrepreneurship, the club, and the organization because the inmates are busy. They're going places. So we got to watch for the demon on the gate. I had that problem with it at Angola. The demon on the gate is the guy that won't open the gate and just sits there and holds the gate closed for minutes or dragged around and walks slow. You got to watch for slow walkers. Slow walkers are slow workers, I find, in my career. So you want to look for people that walk fast to put in those kind of jobs so they'll keep moving. But anyway, the demon on the gate would wind up on the night shift because he didn't have to hurry on the night shift. But the day shift, he had to be walking fast. So if you, with the demon on the gate, you couldn't stay on the gate. I had to move you on. And the inmates will tell you who's the demon on the gate. And I had dorm reps, I'm sure they do here in most places, and I would meet with them on Saturdays every 6 weeks, and they would come. We'd have breakfast together, just me and them, the dorm reps from each part of the prison. There'd be about 15 or 20 of them, and no correctional officer could come. Nobody could be there, just me and them, and they could tell me anything they wanted to. And so I would know what was going on in the prison really well, really good. But again, the truth is elusive, so you just can't go jump off and say, well, hey, he told me this is true. You got to verify it, check it all out, so you don't get led away to do bad. But anyway, that's how we do that. It's pretty natural, though, to do entrepreneurship and so forth, and to do the clubs and organizations. It's pretty natural to do church. It's just doing it. It's real busy. It's a lot of work. And if you're lazy, don't be a prison warden. You got to work hard and fast. Be smart about what's going on around you. You know, you're one phone call from disaster. The most intriguing phone call I ever got was an inmate that I had transferred to another prison. He escaped from that prison and called me on the phone New Year's Eve, 2015, and said, Warden, I've escaped from the prison. Come get me. I want to come back to Angola. And so that was a long story that night. And when I called the secretary, he said, why don't I know he escaped? Because he wanted to know everything first. I said, well, it wasn't the prison. It called me with the inmate. He was behind a church. So he said, come on, get your gun. Let's go. He said, it's a setup. I said, we'll get 2 guns. I bring in 2. So we'll see if it's a setup or not. But it wasn't. So we went and captured the inmate and so forth. And he had escaped in an ambulance and tied up the ambulance driver and took his uniform, and he went through the front gate with a red lights on the ambulance blinking and telling the front gate guy, and he wore the jacket from the ambulance driver. And so the front gate said there's an emergency to Warden's house. I'm going to the Warden's house. So naturally they flagged him on through. And that's how he got out in the ambulance. So then he went and hid behind the church in the ambulance so they wouldn't see it, and then that's where he called me from with the phone he took from the ambulance driver. Cool story, but anyway, a lot of funny stories. Yes, sir.
Thank you for your time and your wisdom. North Carolina has shown a great commitment to wanting to change the system and impact lives. But I think as of this year, they're 55% understaffed across the state. And that really puts a great hindrance on their capacity to implement new programs and it just hinders a lot. What are some of your suggestions for the state of North Carolina in addressing such a drastic shortage of staff that's having such an impact?
One thing is be sure who you hire, you keep, because we were losing half the people we hired and losing them in the first 2 months. Once they got through the training academy, then they were out. They would go to the drop and leave. And so that's when we mandated that no new employee could go to any job without having an old employee or another new employee with him after they've been trained, and the management has to go by there and check on them because they would stand on their drop or be on the tower, be where they were, the two of them together, because they weren't alone and because it's scary to be in the prison and all these inmates out here and you're just by yourself. Well, you're not going to stay. And especially if you're female, then you get really nervous. And so then she falls victim to the inmates coming up and telling her, well, we're going to look out for you. We'll take care of you. You don't have to worry about anything. Probably that's a gang guy. So they taking her right in and stealing her from you. And then she's going to get in trouble and you're going to be firing her. So she's going to be wrecked her world. So that's terrible. So it's putting them together with two. And that's worked for us. So we're close to 300 so far this year, whereas last year we gained like 30. So we're losing, plus we paid more money. So our correctional officers can start at about 40,300 in Mississippi is good, but 10% of that you lose every day you don't go to work, because then you don't get the 10% any day you miss work. So that puts you back to 37,600. But still, we don't even require a high school diploma to come to work for us, because we need their eyes and their body more than we need anything else. Now, I would like to not have that rule, but to desperately hire people, that's what we did. It is a problem, but it's just really retaining who you keep, who you hire. We were losing so many. And then also the way we treated them, because we had a lot of people with screaming and hollering, and you get a screaming female that just manages with her mouth, and even the male, the employees as well as the inmates, you just got chaos, and we had to cut all that out. And so we fixed that pretty quick and get rid of them. Any other question? Well, thank you all so much. I enjoyed being here with you all today, and I'll be around all day. And I left a lot of things unsaid, but I think I covered what I wanted to. Thank you so much.